Welcome to another episode of Waves of Wisdom. Today, with me is a friend of mine from all the way from South Africa. She is Dr. Mavis Mazhura, is deeply motivated by desire to empower individuals to achieve their full potential. She is the author of 8 books, and one of the most important books I would like to highlight is she wrote a book about managing emotions for financial freedom, which will be one of the key areas of our talk today. And she also like to her purpose in life is guiding others towards their personal transformation and building resilience. She's a doctor of philosophy from on the area of psychology and leadership. So let's deep dive into her story and how she found purpose and passion in her life and what she thinks about Unretirable. Welcome to the show, Dr. Mavis.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Yes, I'm excited and looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for joining all the way from South Africa. And it's, I think, about 3 hours behind Maldives when we are recording this in Maldives, right? Yeah.
You're right.
So, Dr. Mavis, just to start with, can you tell us a little bit about your career and what you are doing in early parts of your career and what led you to pursue your higher education or your PhD in this area of psychology and leadership?
All right. So my background is HR. My first degree is in human resource. So I worked in HR for a few years, and I also worked in learning and development for also a few years. When I was working in learning and development, I think there was just something that, I felt that I was underutilized. I felt that I had more potential than what I was currently utilizing. But I also saw in the role that I was in that I would never be able to use more of my potential than what I was currently using. So as a result, I started exploring possibilities. And I knew then at the time that I had a passion for learning. I had a passion for empowering people, helping people learn, but also me to learn. I had a passion of learning always. And I just, sort of started sort of exploring how do I sort of find work that really resonates, work that really aligns with what I am passionate about, which is learning and empowering others to learn. And I remember one of the key moments was I actually watched a movie, or was it a documentary called From Ambition to Meaning. And that really sort of changed my life, because at the time, it was just really looking at what is a career that can, yes, resonates, but also career that can make more financial rewards. It gives me more financial rewards. But I think when I watched that documentary on From Ambition to Meaning, it changed everything. I wanted to do meaningful work. And I didn't know what that...
What is the message in this movie?
So the message in this movie is really to say we are taught and trained to pursue ambition, to be ambitious. We want to be the next, the next CEO, the next director, the next. So we almost are trained to follow a particular sort of way in our career progression, seeking for the next sort of promotion, the next growth within the career ladder. But some of us find ourselves in those careers and we are empty. We don't feel that we're making any meaningful contribution. We don't feel like we have purpose. We don't feel like what we're doing is purposeful. Right. And I think that was me. I was in HR or learning and development, and I didn't feel that I was making the impact that I'm capable of making. I didn't feel that, even though I loved learning, that the work that I was doing was purposeful or meaningful. And so from there, when I was transitioning and looking for what next, I wanted work that was meaningful for me and even for the people that I would impact.
Yeah. So when, I think a lot of people are in their mid-careers go through the same type of thinking what you are going through, right? So throughout your experience in this, how did you felt like before you change your career into more meaningful work, which you are doing now? And when you went through that phase, how was that phase like?
I think it was a challenging phase because you've got a lot of confusion, you've got decisions to make, you've got bread and butter issues, right? You still need to pay your bills, you still need to bring, pay your, pay for your bills or pay school fees, whatever it is that you need to pay. So you're thinking, I need an income, and then you're thinking, I need meaningful work. So it's kind of scary, and so many people then end up just getting stuck in rather let me pay my bills. And rather let me maintain this so that I've got security, because my transition meant not having security. My transition meant having to let go of security to seek for something more meaningful and eventually find security there. It was not guaranteed at the time of transition that you would actually find security. So it's a very scary and a very uncertain, sort of position to find yourself in, having to decide, do I stay, do I go? Do I change, or do I remain where I am? Yeah.
So do you think the people who are, so is it the people who are scared and they don't want to face that fear, who get stuck in what they're doing and they continue doing, and then after many years they wish they would have done something else?
Right. So that fear, that uncertainty can definitely keep you stuck. So if you don't know how to, or don't get help to manage your own emotions, right? Because that fear is real, that anxiety is real, the insecurity is real. Right. And as you will know, that most of us are not schooled around managing or even regulating our own emotions. We're not schooled around managing our emotions. So we tend to stay away from things that evoke fear, things that evoke anxiety. We train to avoid them. But sometimes we need to go in the direction of the anxiety. Sometimes you need to go in the direction of your fear to find your freedom. Right. But it's not something that is naturally something we do. We naturally gravitate away, not towards. So not all fear is bad, not all anxiety, not all insecurity is bad. Sometimes you need to navigate that insecurity until you find the freedom you desire or the freedom that you deserve.
Yeah. So what is the mind frame of mind or thinking process somebody can adapt to make this process more easier? Or what was your experience like?
So I don't know about easier. Right? Because when we seek easier, then it means we will avoid things that are challenging. I don't know about easier. It was not easy, but it certainly was doable. Right? But I think for me, it was having that clear vision. What do I want? What matters? Right? And for me, what mattered at that time is really doing meaningful work.
Yeah.
It's really finding my purpose. It's really living on purpose day to day. That was more important than the current security. So instead of putting my fear in front of me, I learned to put my fear behind me. What if I miss a chance to become the best version of myself? What if I miss an opportunity to change people's lives? And I think about the impact that I've made in the past couple of years, the past 10 years. What if I hadn't made that decision? So when I hear feedback from people that have been impacted by the work that I do, people that have also been able to transform themselves, their lives, their families, their businesses, and I think of, what if I had not done that? What if I had not made that decision? I would have missed an opportunity to actually transform not only my life, but the lives of many people that I've had the privilege of touching because I'm doing meaningful and purposeful work.
That's a wonderful framework. I think we can take back to the time of that anxiety and fear, right? So you are telling if somebody, one way we can reframe our thinking is like thinking about the impact that we are going to make at the end by taking that challenge, isn't it?
Right. Right. Okay.
So then what happened? Like from that point, you were working in HR and then L&D, and then you went into academics, or you became an
So I
author?
actually, yeah, so I actually ended up just resigning without an alternative, but I was going to try to start a consulting company.
Okay.
So I started a consulting company, but I realized as I was doing it that, you know, I didn't have enough skill set to be able to continue to run or even to be able to facilitate some of the programs that I was passionate about. I started being very passionate about emotional intelligence, learning about emotional intelligence. How do I manage emotions? How do I self-regulate? How do I become more self-aware? But how do I also help other people to do the same? And I used to hire people to do that, to come and facilitate. So I would run the admin of the business, the selling side of the business. But when I would hire people to come and do the facilitation of the EQ or emotional intelligence training, when I sit in some of those sessions, I felt like this is a huge subject and it's being, I mean, I don't think it's being utilized to the potential, the extent to which it is, you know, capable of, you know, helping to transform people's lives. So I then went for my own certification. I did EQ certification with Talent Smart. I did EQ certification with Human Next. I did EQ certification with 6 Seconds. And from there, I started facilitating myself. So I started doing a lot of emotional intelligence courses, you know, 2 days, 3 days, and most of those were very transformational. Right? I could see people change in a day, in two, as we were talking about emotions and managing emotions. Most people like me have never been schooled around their emotions. So the idea of discussing emotions and seeing how powerful they were in terms of, you know, driving performance, in terms of, you know, influencing outcomes. So it really helped a lot of people. So I was training in many organizations. But I think one thing as I was doing that also came to mind is, while the training was impactful, I think maybe about 20% of people were actually able to self-change after receiving the learning and the information. Mm-hmm. So there was still something that I was curious about to say, how do we bring sustainable human behavior change? Because emotions shape habits and attitudes, therefore they shape behavior.
Yeah.
But how do you actually drive sustainable behavior change? Because it's one thing for you and I to have a conversation now. It's another thing to go back to your attitudes and your habits that you have formulated over years. And those habits and attitudes cannot be changed by just one conversation. So I kept looking for, you know, ways to help people to transform. And I started coaching. So I became a John Maxwell certified coach. And I also then became an LMI leadership management certified coach. And I think for the past 7 years, I've been using the LMI process, the Leadership Management International process, because their process really guarantees sustainable behavior change if people engage with the process, right? Mm-hmm. So it has frameworks, it has got a structure, it's got positive input. So it really does help people to change their behavior. So that's where I am. I'm excited every day when I have conversations, knowing fully well that this person is moving closer to the next level of their potential. Right. Yeah. This person can only go forward if we have this conversation, if we engage through this LMI process. This person can only get to the next level of their potential. But not only do they get to the next level of their potential, I also go to my next level of my potential while I'm helping them. Their transformation becomes part of my transformation.
That is a very beautiful perspective, I would say, that when you are transforming somebody else's life, that also transforms your life. Can you tell us a little bit more about how this happens?
Okay.
What is the psychology behind it?
Yeah. So what is the psychology behind this? That's interesting. So as you will know that we are all, I mentioned the issue of habits and attitudes, right? All right? So we are what we repeatedly do. Our habits, our attitudes. Attitudes, I normally define attitudes as dominant emotions.
Yeah.
What you repeatedly think and feel is your attitude. That then shapes your habits, because emotions drive behavior, behavior drives performance. So what you habitually think and feel drives your habit, your usual behaviors, and then the results thereof. But when we engage with people and they start to become aware that they can actually transform their programming, that we don't have to become victims of our programs, we can actually reprogram ourselves. We can decondition and recondition ourselves so that we can operate at the level that we want to operate and produce the results that we desire. So when that happens, we have conversations, but there's also, so our process uses what we call reinforcement. So the process starts with self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Where am I? What do I want? Okay, so we do a discovery session. And then we also do what we call then positive input, right? So we do have motivational content that allows someone to reframe their ways of thinking. It's almost like I'm always using the analogy of if you've got dirty water and you start pouring clean water from outside, you do what we call positive displacement, and you clean out the water that's dirty. Eventually, the water in the glass becomes cleaner. So when we give you positive input or motivational content, we're helping you to reframe, we're helping you to change your mindset so that when we meet for a reinforcement session, which is a conversation that we're having, part of the conditioning process, reconditioning process is already taken place through spaced repetition of motivational content. So when my clients are going through the process, I'm also going through the process. I'm also listening to the same content. Our conversations are allowing me to reframe some of the ways that I look at things, how I look at things, right? So there, as I mentioned, then their transformation becomes my transformation, because if they're going through the process, I'm also going through the process. I'm helping them to become more self-aware. But in those conversations, I also become self-aware, right? I'm helping them to set their goals, become clear about what their goals are. I cannot help people to set goals when I've none.
Yeah.
I cannot help.
I can resonate it with very well, because I'm also a ICF coach. So when we coach someone, actually the questions we ask relating to the conversation really open up our mind as well. And even maybe not at that point of time, but later, if that is something we deeply need to think, then we keep on thinking, and sometimes we have to adjust our thinking as well.
Right, right.
You very well said that. So, Dr. Mavis, so from there on, you have not looked back, right? You have been into consulting, into coaching and speaking. So out of these elements, as a professional and also an entrepreneur, right? Because you cannot be an entrepreneur without. So how do you manage all these aspects? And what is the area of your profession, or what you are doing now, which you love most to do?
So as long as I'm dealing with human dynamic issues, like whether I'm facilitating or speaking on topics of human behavior or human dynamics related, or I'm coaching, I'm great. I love it. But I also know that sometimes to do what we love, we also have to do the things we don't love. What are those? There's admin behind the scenes. You're not always coaching, right? There's financial management behind the scenes. There's team management and team development behind the scenes. So I've got a team. So they rely on me to help them to set their goals, to manage their performance, other admin related things. So while I love what I do, there are things that I sometimes don't always love that I have to do, right, behind the scenes, in order for me to sustain continuing to do what I love, right? You mentioned about, so it's not just about, speaking, facilitating, and coaching. There's a financial responsibility that comes with it. You've got a payroll for the team, so you have to make sure that it's financially viable, it's profitable, what you're doing. Okay. You also have a salary. Yeah. So that is also a thing there to look at. So you're not just managing, it's a business, as you said, it's an entrepreneurial venture, because you're doing it, within that space.
Since you are talking about the financials of the company, you also wrote this book on financial wellness. How did this came about? How did you decide to do that?
Okay, so I think one of the things when you start a venture, right, you know that at the beginning, if you didn't have a capital, so if you didn't have capital, even if you had capital, we know that most small businesses, they fail within the 7 years, right? Before 7 years, most small businesses fail. Most people quit their job to start their new own venture or consulting, and they go back to work. Right. What is that? It's mainly for financial reasons. You get there and the finances don't make sense in the first few years. Or you just find that, because you started a new venture doesn't automatically mean that your financial literacy improved or you got better on how you manage finances, right? So I realized that I needed to learn how to manage finances, not just for the business, but also even for my own personal peace. Right. For me to be able to show up fully and confidently when I'm servicing my clients, I do not want to come up with financial pressure or financial anxiety. So I needed to manage my finances in a way that allowed me to be able to show up fully, but also that allowed me to be able to take up some of the opportunities that come along, because sometimes you get excluded because maybe you get accorded, for example, a training that requires you to pay for some of the services upfront before you get paid. And then you realize, oh, I don't have the money. So the financial freedom became, how do I manage my finances in a way that leaves me with financial peace rather than financial anxiety? How do I reduce financial stress, right? As an entrepreneur, as a business person, but also as a mom, as a responsible adult in my own household, so that I am not constantly fearing the bread and butter issues. And this will interfere with my ability to actually show up fully as an individual. So financial well-being, critical. If you have to show up fully, and if you also have to be able to latch out at some of the opportunities that come your way, you need some financial stability, but you also need financial freedom. What is that about? For me, financial freedom is not about having a limited supply of money. It's about managing the money you have in a way that leaves you feeling peaceful.
All right. So this is a very important topic when it comes to the current work, which I am also doing, as I mentioned before we started. So we are talking about people who becomes unretirable, what I call are people who have actually found that peace in their life, or who had found that purpose, and how it is how important it is for people to be financially free or financially stress-free, to go when they move along their journey into later years of their life.
Okay.
And
So we
how that can create
psychological
resilience, because you are also, I think you connect it with the psychological aspect of finance as well. So
right. So I think in terms of retiring, one of the things that stop people from retiring sooner or transitioning to what they love is financial issues. It's bread and butter. You still have bills to pay. But even when people retire, very few people have sufficient money to retire in many countries. Right? Meaning the way we managed our money while we were working does not allow us to retire with peace. Okay, so the financial planning that occurred during the process, or the financial literacy one had during the process, then continues to sort of, be the sort of a decisive factor for them to actually transition. But also one of the things that I find is that when you've got financial pressure, you can't dream. Right? When you've got financial pressure, you cannot be resourceful.
What do you mean by you can't dream? Even somebody who doesn't have can have a big dream, isn't it?
Mostly when you start speaking to people with financial pressure, they start letting go of their dreams.
Okay.
There is a way that we associate dreaming. For many people associate dreaming, visioning with money. So people start saying, I can't have that dream. I can't dream of visiting 100 countries of the world when I am financially pressured right now. It's impossible.
Or in other words, can we say that they are scared to dream because they don't have money?
they are scared to dream because they have no
Yeah.
money. They start to associate dreaming with finances. And
Okay.
yet dreaming does the opposite. It is the dreams that push people, right?
Yeah.
To become
True.
innovative and creative so that they can create the finances.
Yeah.
I'm always saying to people that, let me look at your dream list and I'll show you how much is in your account. Right? Because
So it
the
is
lesser
really a reflection,
dream,
you said. So
yes,
your
it's a
dreams are a
reflection.
reflection of what you have, right?
Right, right. Okay. What do they say? Dreams are the materials through which the future is made up of.
Okay.
Right? So we can immediately know what the future is going to look like based on your dreams currently. What are you dreaming about? What is on your dream list?
Yeah.
But the financial pressure has limited many people from dreaming. Yet I always use this to say dreams are for free, they are not for sale.
Yes.
So you don't even have to think about what's in your bank account because that is irrelevant. Dreams are for free, they are not for sale. And yet many people get constricted, get limited in their visioning, in their pursuit of their dreams, in them becoming innovative and creative because they limit themselves because they say they don't have money. So financial freedom is important because when you don't have the pressure, you can dream.
Then you get time to dream, I guess.
Sorry?
Then when you don't have financial pressure, you tend to, you get time to dream, isn't it? And vision. Because otherwise all your time is occupied with how I will survive, isn't it?
Yes.
Something like
so
that.
when we are not in survival mode, you have capacity to be able to have visions, Although you talked about resilience. Resilience is that ability to be able to dream, not when the adversity is over, but during the adversity, so that the adversity can be over. I don't know if that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that is basically a loop, right?
Right.
How it goes around. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So, so what was this is the key message of your book, right? So, what was your experience in your journey into financial freedom and becoming financial stress-free? You mentioned initially you were not, right? So, what was that turning point when you became, or how many years it took for you to achieve that?
Well, yes, I love to look at that. But I think for me, it was firstly becoming self-aware.
Yeah.
To become aware of the conditioning, the programming that I'd received from my childhood. Firstly, as a Black woman, you tend to take care of everyone. You don't have clear goals. Your money is just about getting it and making sure that everyone is fine. So I had no goals. I had no long-term goals. It was basically, day to day. So you have no planning for the future. There's no dreams. I didn't have any dreams, right? So you just basically operational, focusing on what's happening right here, right now. Okay, so me realizing that I had to reprogram myself, I had to give myself permission to dream. I had to set long-term goals, right? Short-term, medium-term, long-term goals. I had to plan for the future financially, right? Instead of outsourcing it. Because as a woman, it was also easy to outsource it, that, maybe my husband will take care of things, right? So you tend to outsource and wait and hope that someone will take care of it, right? But I realized that if I wanted to unleash my own potential, I needed to do it myself. There's a responsibility I need to take for my finances. And then so the self-awareness and the self-determination, right? What do I want? Financially, what does that look like? Okay. And not just financially, but also looking at the wheel of life to say, what do I want in my family and home? Right? Who would I need to be financially in order to create the home that I want? What I want in terms of social and cultural. Who would I need to be financially in order to be able to do that? Physically and health, what do I want? Who would I need to be financially in order to be able to maintain that? Okay, what do I want in terms of mental and educational? Right, because I did my doctorate, I think 3-4 years ago. I completed it in 2021, self-funded, US-based university. an almost $100,000 program. It was not sponsored by anyone. It's what I wanted. But how was I going to finance it if I didn't have the money? Or if I didn't believe that I can make the money? Right. So what did I want mentally and educationally? So that was important for me. And what would I need to be financially in order to be able to become that? So I could pursue and study in the university of my dreams, where I wanted to study, doing the program I wanted, not being limited by finances, but having
That's
that
a
option.
perfect example of how you can dream and the dream can become reality, right? So that might take a little bit time. I think for most of the people, sometimes people give up too early, right?
Right.
So is there in your through your experience or through your studies or research, have you found any time frame normally which I know when we talk about finance, you cannot become overnight success.
No.
And the people who think they become overnight success only gives up after an overnight.
Right.
So
right.
In your observation, have you found any particular like an objective time frame where somebody should aim for to become financially free? A reasonable time frame. You can't be grinding forever as well, right?
Yeah, true. You can't be grinding forever as well. True. But I think I don't know about time frame, but they talk about 7 years, right?
Yeah.
So after 7 years in the consulting space, I was able to buy my first house, property, flat, in fact, and I was able to do that for cash, right? But it meant 7 years of grinding.
Yeah.
And during that 7 years, sometimes it felt like you're doing nothing or you're going nowhere. Right. So I don't know if the time frame differs from one person to one person, context as well. But I think they've always talked about, for small businesses, you need about seven years to break even.
Yeah.
Yeah, to start being profitable. And some people take longer. So for me, the first 7 years, yeah, I was able to then to see something meaningful. And then from there, it's been continuous progression. It was kind of easier than the first 7 years.
So we can say that safely, like 5 to 7 years is a period we can, we can things to see some results. So those who want to quit before 7 years, we can say easily, don't retire, don't quit, right? keep working, right?
Right. I think one of the learnings as well is if I could redo this, I would have found mentors and coaches sooner. I know at the moment, at the time, it feels counterintuitive because you don't have the money. So now you must look for someone to pay. But it takes you longer to try and figure out things on your own and more faster to try and figure things with someone who already has the experience and the knowledge.
I 100% agree with you. And this is where, even one of the reasons why as coaches, sometimes, we struggle to find clients even because a lot of people who need a coach actually doesn't have money to pay for a coach.
That's it. And I don't think they don't have money. It's just a priority issue.
There's a prioritization as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a priority issue.
If they really look at the amount of money they are going to waste in a year's time, it is much more than a few sessions of coaching or mentoring they can pay someone for. And it don't have to be always paid, right? Because there are out there are so many people. If you really approach and ask for help, who are ready to give a piece of their mind.
True.
Yeah. Why do you think that a lot of people are scared to ask for help in these situations?
So this is an interesting one because as adults, there's a thinking we have that we're supposed to know certain things. Right? We're supposed to know. How can you earn an income and not know how to manage it?
Yeah.
It feels like it's not like, it feels like exposing yourself to your incompetence as an adult. So many people fear the exposure and the vulnerability that comes with it. Because the moment
I can resonate this one very well, even early part of my career, because I started my professional career as a chartered accountant.
Mm-hmm.
And can you imagine, even as an accountant, I wasn't managing my own finance. How can I go back and tell somebody how to manage personal finance, where I'm managing millions of dollars for a company? Yeah.
So we
That is
relate
where,
with that, most of us, to
yes,
say, as adults, there's this fear that, for some reason, we want to act like we've got it all together. We know what we are doing, right? We don't want to expose ourselves, but that is actually not the truth. You and I know that it's not the truth. There are things we don't know right now that we need assistance with from someone to help us to get to the next level.
So it is always important. So knowing something and doing something is very different, right? Because we have been talking about, for example, retirement and things like that. A lot of people knows that they are going to retire, and they knows they need to save money for retirement as well. And a lot of people knows that they once they retire, if they don't have anything to do, they might fall sick or they might die sooner. I don't know, but nobody, very few people are actually doing something about it. For example, developing a passion on the side while they are having a 9-to-5 job, a career, something like that, right? So how, in your experience and knowledge, how somebody should reframe their thinking to make sure their future is brighter, or they becomes unretirable in their career, they can follow this passion and for the rest of their life. Um, what is the kind of mental frame they should adopt?
Okay. So I think for me, if you can't see 5 years and 10 years from now, and you've not been able to sort of frame that on your own, you need assistance. You need someone to help you, right? But also, if you have the 5-year, 10-year vision, but you can't see the progress yearly or monthly towards that vision or goal, to your point, the gap between knowledge and application, it also means that you need to change your mindset so you can change your habits. So your habits are producing what you're currently doing, and your mindset is driving your habits. So you need to change, reframe your mindset so that you can change your habits. So then you can start to have what we call goal-directed action. So if that is not happening, we know that accountability increases the chances of success by 90%. We also know that only 20% of people can self-change. So there are those who know, set goals, and do it by themselves without needing assistance. They are only 20%. The rest of us, we need help. It means even though you know and you haven't done it, you're unlikely to be able to do it in the next year or two. So you better get the accountability that you need. And we know that accountability increases the chances of success by 90%. One of the things that I was speaking to one mentee of mine, they asked me, oh, business was bad. Last year, business was really bad. I said, who held you accountable for your business? And he said, no one.
When you are self-accountant, then there's nobody to report, right?
Right? So when you are on this retirable journey, who's holding you accountable for what you want to create after retirement? Who's holding you accountable for the transition? Who's making sure that those goals are set and you're following through? Maybe you want to register a company. And most people that are some of the people that I've coached in our Leadership for Women coaching program, or even on our Grandmasters of Success, they are already in the transition of going for retirement. And most of them, they become so thankful because now they will tell you that all I had was the anxiety about whether I'll have enough money, but I've actually not been doing the planning itself or checking what do I actually have. But the moment you start holding them accountable, they start checking, they start putting, the plans in place. They start registering those companies that they need to do afterwards. They start planning about what is it that they're going to be doing post-retirement, right? So I think we need the help. In fact, maybe organizations, I know organizations coach for career within, but organizations can start also thinking about coaching for transition after career.
Yeah.
If
I
you
think
have a
that's the
couple of
important
people
thing.
that are going for retirement,
Yes.
put them in a coaching program and help them to retire or to transition in a way that's going to help
not
them
to retire.
Yes.
Or transition.
Not to
I think
retire.
that is the word which
To
I would
transition, right?
mostly, yeah. The
Yeah,
message
yeah.
which I'm trying to pass is like that. This is a transition into a new phase of life rather than traditional retirement and do nothing and watch Netflix the whole day and
Right.
have a chat with your retired neighbor. And
Yeah.
but there's more to life than that, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
True.
So, Dr. Mavis, how do you see your yourself in your later years? What will you be doing? Will you continue to do what you're doing now, or will you be doing something else?
I will continue to do what I'm doing now, but I think maybe with more freedom.
Yeah.
It won't
What do you
be
mean by more freedom? Like, because you will have more money, or?
Yeah. So I think for me it will be I do have the time freedom. I can decide now whether I want to work or not, or even the financial. But I think what I mean is I'm still in the active years, right? Where filling my calendar is more important, because then I feel that I'm active, I'm useful, I'm adding value. So it gives me that sort of, high, right? But I think later on, maybe post 75, I can decide if I'm going to have 2-3 clients for the year. And maybe the rest I am traveling. I would love to do more traveling. I have on my vision to do 100 countries of the world. It's not always possible with the current schedule.
I wish you all the best on that one.
Thank you.
I'm also a travel maniac. So I can imagine how, when you are into traveling and when you love travel and explore new cultures, how much freedom financially and time-wise you like to have. So definitely you will be having more wisdom as you go, right? With all these experiences, and then you are that a few hours will become more expensive even for somebody to pay for, because you have more wisdom now, isn't it?
Right? Yeah, true.
Yeah. But before we started, you were sharing about some experiences of people you look up to, or you know, who are like who are unretirable and still going on with passion and with a big purpose in their life. Can you share some of those with some experiences with those people you have come across?
Right. We know that Warren Buffett is over 90 and he's still the chairman of his organization. He still works.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's unretirable.
Yeah, in fact, he doesn't do much travel. I recently came to know about it. He doesn't even travel to other states of US as much as many other people travel to other countries, because he loves to do what he's doing, and he enjoys what he's doing, he says, every day.
And I know that he does I think there's one conference a year.
Yeah.
A highly sought after conference. Very high priced ticket. And people buy and go. So he's not trying to coach everyone, but he puts together one conference a year. And who doesn't want to go and sit under Warren Buffett's wisdom?
Learn from him, right? The best, best in investments. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, Dr. Mavis, we are coming towards an end of our conversation today. Is there anything you want to share with our audience in the light of what we have been discussing, or in the light of your books, or any upcoming book or work which you are doing currently? Anything you want to share with our audience?
So one thing that I'm very passionate about at the moment is developing women to get to the next level of their potential. Being female, but also just engaging with a lot of female executives or managers in organizations, and seeing the limitation that we sometimes face as women. I've been passionate about developing women. So I do a monthly webinar. It's not a long 45 minutes on overcoming leadership challenges for women. So if anyone is interested, they can maybe, I don't know, connect and we can share that information. My books are available on Amazon. So if anyone wants to read on anything that I've written, my books are available on Amazon. I think those are the things. I'm available on LinkedIn for more information. People can connect and we can take it on from there.
Wonderful. We'll leave some of the links to connect with Dr. Mavis and also your workshop, so people can connect with you to join. And I wish you all the best for the work you are doing. And I'm sure the world needs more empowered women to the world to become better. And I wish you all the best on this. Thank you very much for being on our show and having this conversation all the way from South Africa. And then I hope we'll meet on some other occasion and deep dive into more topics. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I enjoyed the conversation. Hope we can have more conversations and all the best on your end.
Thank you. And for my listeners, and until we come back, don't forget to work on your future. Because as Dr. Mavis said, your dreams, the list of your dreams is what actually decides what you will become at the end of in the future. So don't forget to dream until we come back again.